Hello, my name is Jerin Gould, and this is the Who's to Say podcast. Being a lifelong music and art fan, I was lucky enough to book a lot of bands back in the day, and have been even more lucky to stay in contact with many of them. I grew up all over, and my love for music and art only intensified the older I got. This podcast are conversations with many artists in many different capacities. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, who's to say? Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Who's to Say podcast. I'm your host, Jerin Gould, and today we will speak with my good friend, Jake Brown. Jake is known from the bands 238, Moments in Grace, Frodus, and Masse, Computer Club Records, as well as various other bands, including his new venture, Isya. I've known Jake for a while, and it's so awesome he would take the time to be my first guest. We got to catch up about music, touring, life, and various other things, so I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thank you for taking time to listen to the beginning of this journey. So Jake, who's to say? Jake Brown.
What's up?
What's up, dude?
Henry.
How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
What
Doing
have you been
great.
up to?
Good to see you.
Yes, absolutely, man. I know we live very close, and we probably should see each other more than we do, but yeah, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. Just just spending lots of time with the family and working a lot and starting to play music again and kind of getting used to that post pandemic experience that doesn't quite feel real.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's awesome, man. How are your kids and fam?
Everyone's doing good. We're just enjoying St. Augustine and we have a really cool neighborhood. It's very much a throwback to the 70s. All the houses were in the front part of our neighborhood where we live were built in the 70s, and it's got that vibe to it. It's like the kids are outdoors all the time. There's always lots of kids out playing, and like it's just really cool. It throws me back to, I wasn't alive in the 70s, but it throws me back to the 80s. So
Dude, that's awesome. I know that area pretty well for work, and it's beautiful down there. I love St. Augustine in general.
I've lived everywhere around here, and like this is, I think it's just because I have kids now. It is the perfect time to live in a neighborhood like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think my wife and I talked about if we ever retired, we definitely would want to be in St. Augustine or near it or something. Because right now it's our date spot, but I don't ever want to like ruin the date spot, if that makes sense. So
it might be better that way.
I know. It's kind of one of those things. Well, maybe live in between Jacksonville and St. I don't know, something. But it's a banger place. I love that spot. So
it is, and apparently the whole world has realized that now because I work at a hotel, and all of the people I've talked to over the past couple of weeks, or really for the past several months, are moving here from New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. Like they're all coming here, so it's
man,
really crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, Jacksonville is the same way. It's nuts right now, which is good. The economy is going good, which is good, and yeah, it's awesome. We live in a great state, and we go to the beach when we want, all that jazz. So I don't go enough, but
same. As you can tell by the pasty.
Oh, right. I know, right? I tell my wife when we first started dating, I said, I tan well. And the more and more I go out in the sun, I actually bought a long sleeve swim shirt. Now I'm that guy that's got the hood up and at the beach. And I know I tan well, but it just wears me out. So
yeah, I still hold, that's what I say too. And nobody believes me anymore. And I think it's because I had like a 15-year lapse of not going in the sun, so now my body's like never tan again.
It's getting old, man. Getting old. Awesome, dude. Cool. Well, I just wanted to go back a little bit, back to little Jake Brown. And tell me kind of what got you involved on this journey that you're on.
Well, let's see. I guess I mean, in a weird way, I think that when I was young, I got really into pro wrestling, which to me still has very like it ties into the music somehow.
Absolutely.
Like I think just because of all the like, it's like so similar in the way that you've got this like, you know, this like these colors and this like entrance and this whole presentation. It's like kind of the same vibe of like
Absolutely.
buying records and getting into bands and stuff like that. So um yeah, I mean, I guess pro wrestling was, I loved all the entrance music back then, like for the Rockers and the Ultimate Warrior
Oh
and
my God, yeah.
Big Boss Man.
Hulk
Like
Hogan, dude.
Hulk Hogan. I mean, you cannot mess with that
I
theme
know.
song. That is like
That Andre
it was
Slam changed my world.
yeah. So I mean, I loved that. And then around the time I was in middle school, I picked up Tears for Fears Elemental on cassette. And
So
I picked it up on cassette because I started listening to the radio because my older sister was a DJ. So that got me interested in listening to the radio, and I would call in and make requests and kind of like started picking what I liked. But I immediately gravitated towards Tears for Fears, Break It Down Again. That was what was on the radio at the time. So
such a good song.
yeah, so good. And it's such a unknown song from them. I mean, generally, just compared to all their 80s songs that were so huge, that are still so huge, that one's kind of like a little bit overlooked. But anyways, yeah, I was obsessed with it right from the moment I heard it. So I bought that cassette. I remember buying that and the what was the other one? Genesis, We Can't
Oh
Dance.
my God, I love that record.
So good. I mean, that's I still go back to that record. It's such a, I feel like it's funny coming into both of those bands in the 90s because the longtime fans of those bands, I know now as a record nerd now, that like the longtime fans of those bands, like that, those are the era that they like stopped listening to them.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
don't like, when Phil Collins is like wearing jeans on MTV and,
Yep.
that whole thing, it was like, oh, they're no longer prog rock, but like, it doesn't, those records are so good. I mean,
Oh, I know.
Elemental's still my all-time favorite album, and We Can't Dance, I'll stand behind it. I know that single
I
is
love
like,
that song.
it is what it
The
is,
whole
but
record's fantastic.
it's so good.
That's
It's so
such a
good.
vivid memory for me when MTV was playing all those songs and the videos. And I was coming of age at that time too. And I was just like, I grew up on Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith and all that stuff. And then it's like, oh, Phil Collins. Okay. And,
Yeah.
my wife and I, we talk about how like Tears for Fears, like they wrote those records when they were, at that point they were a little older, but it's like they were geniuses, complete
Yeah.
geniuses. That's awesome, dude. That's cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, went from there.
awesome. So after that, what didn't make you want to start playing, or did it make you want to do
I
shows, or
I would like my best friend Tyler and we would like rock out in my room. We'd put on like the Crow soundtrack or some
yes.
Helmet, and like I had like a toy guitar. We pretend we were like a band, and
Oh yeah.
that was like we would do that all the time. Honestly, I still have those tapes somewhere.
That's
Which
amazing.
are probably, I don't think I could watch that, but
That's awesome. Yeah, my
yeah,
buddies and
but
I did that.
you what?
I said my buddies and I, we used to go out with the rakes when my friend Andy's mom would be like, go rake the lawn or go rake the driveway. And we'd just be playing, acting like we're playing guitars, and we'd had band names and everything. And it was so
So
ridiculous.
sweet.
I know, but it rules, but it's like, man, I couldn't play anything. He couldn't play anything. Actually, he could play some things, but man, I guess that's just a time that, the way it
I
was.
still I still remember my first fake band. Like before I could play an instrument, my friends and our fake band was called Wasteland Petrified Splinters.
That's amazing. Ours was like something goofy, like I don't even remember what it was. It was like it was something script, like something in a scripture. It was like it had to be something Christian or something to that nature, and it was some weird, like odd scripture. But anyway, yeah, that's awesome. That's really really cool. So, what brought you, to your bands, 238 and Moments in Grace and all that.
Yeah. So, I mean, before I ever like started playing an instrument, I was playing sports. I was playing basketball, and it was okay, but I just, there was a lot of bullying going on, and I had trouble fitting in there, like I
Oh
could
yeah.
play, but I just wasn't like personality wise fitting in. And then the moment I didn't want to try guitar at first, but because I had so many friends that had been playing for so long, I was like 16 when I started playing. And I thought, oh, all my friends already have lessons. Like I shouldn't even bother. But Tyler and I just ended up giving it a shot anyways. Like we kind of taught each other how to play. And so Tyler and I started our for real first band together, which was called Driven. It was like Christian band name, like,
Yep. Oh yeah.
But we got really inspired growing up in Northwest Florida. The music scene was really great. 238 had just started playing shows. They were just like pretty much just like a pop punk band at that point. And I went to go see them play at a local or in Fort Walton Beach at a Christian radio station called Psalms Radio. And it was them and Gilia and a band called NPD. And it was just like the most fun night of my life. It was like,
Awesome.
that was like the game changer night for me of like, oh, this is a thing. Like you go to this place and the band is like on the floor with you and everyone's huddled around them and everyone's having a blast. And like, just, it was like, oh, okay, like this is a whole world out there that I didn't even know existed,
Yeah.
and it was really so good in Northwest Florida for so long too. So it was
That's
really,
awesome.
yeah.
That's really cool. What's the first concert you ever saw?
First concert was, oh man, it was Dakota Motor Company
Yes.
opening for Petra
Dude, that's a
at the
banger.
Pensacola Bayfront Auditorium.
Is that the big arena there?
It's on the bay in Pensacola, and I don't think it's still there. I think they might have closed it. But I saw a lot of shows. I also saw MXPX and Stave Saker there, and I saw the Foo Fighters there on the Color and the Shape tour.
Dude,
I saw a lot of good shows there. It was a cool
that's
venue.
incredible.
Yeah,
That's sweet, dude. I know you mentioned Tears for Fears and Genesis, but what other bands at that time shaped you?
I mean, I do. There's like certain things that stick out to me. Like my friend Tyler and Peter were always showing me new bands, and Circle of Dust was the big one with Peter and I. Like we were really into Circle of Dust, and and then Clank, when Clank, that Clank record came out, Still Suffering, it was so good.
Dude,
and we were able to see him. He played with 238, and it was Clank and Spyglass Blue, who I also loved,
dude.
and 238 and Bathtub Mary.
Oh, I remember them. I never got into them, but I
Yeah,
remember.
I think they're like the one band on the show that I was like, oh, I don't know about this.
I always thought it was.
I don't remember what they sound like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wonder if it's on Spotify. I'm just curious. It might be.
Now we have to go look.
Who's to say? I mean, like really. I always thought it was so cool. When Clank signed his contract with Tooth and Nail, and he cut himself and signed it in blood. I always thought that was the most badass move ever at that time.
It was so badass, and I mean, it was just. I love that all the like Tooth and Nail records lore that there was so much fun to follow. And I love now that in the Facebook groups, you like see everyone still kind of bringing that stuff up, and there's stuff that pops up in those that I forgot, like, yeah, all this, it was just they built such a cool roster of artists and a diverse roster of artists. So yeah, there was just always some interesting stuff going on.
Oh, absolutely. That's so cool. What I know you mentioned some of the shows you saw, but is there any formative shows over the years and records and all that stuff over the years that you can point back to, and maybe it puts you in a different direction, or you're like, oh wow, like where's this you said Genesis and Tears for Fears, which are kind of in the same ballpark somewhat. What are some other records or shows that you were like, dang, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of there's just those shows you go to that are completely change your trajectory, you know, or just like take you somewhere you didn't expect to go and you just can't get it out of your head, you know. And I mean, I can think of several shows like that, but I remember seeing The Locust with the Flying Lutenbachers. That was a really important show. I still think about that show, and I've like gone back and looked up Flying Lutenbachers footage from that era. It was a really interesting era of that band. They're a very weird band, and they had Jonathan Hischke on bass at the time, who's like gone on to play with Beck and a bunch of amazing bands.
That's awesome.
But they were like so next level bizarre. And I think it's always like shows that like kind of scare me or freak me out that I like the most. So like Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum are a band that I don't know if you've ever heard them.
I've heard the name.
They put on the best show I've ever seen. It was just such a weird, dark show, such a weird band, unpredictable, you know, and super theatrical. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That ties back into the wrestling.
I've always been drawn to that, like really like cool performance. I remember at Cornerstone, I went to Cornerstone, what would that have been? 99. That was the first time I went to Cornerstone. And the goth night at Cornerstone,
goth tent,
blew my mind. Wedding Party, oh my
God. That band ruled.
They were so good. Like the show, I remember just feeling like my life has changed watching this show.
That's amazing.
It was so cool.
And you're going to heaven.
What?
And you're going to heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best of both worlds.
Hopeful goth, man. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my God, that's so cool. I had an old roommate, Griffin, who was a total goth guy. He'd be the guy that walks out with like a fake dead crow on his shoulder, and he was super into that. He's so awesome. He's such a great guy. And he would he would be the goth metal guy, and I was kind of on the fence. You know, I like metal and emo and hardcore and all that stuff, and somehow he would be talking about the Wedding Party all the time, and he'd talk about Savior Machine and all that stuff, and so I always knew that stuff, and I never got into it, but I think if I saw it, I probably might have changed my mind. Who knows?
You know what? If I really look back, like the stuff that I didn't listen to a lot of goth and industrial records. Like, I mean, I did, but I didn't listen to them heavily. Like, I liked them, but I just really loved seeing them live.
Yeah.
The records I really listened to a lot were like a lot of emo records, you know, like Mineral, Power of Failing, Sunny Day Real Estate, Diary. Absolutely. You know, like that, Karate, Bed is in the Ocean.
Yep.
Roadside Monument, you know, that kind of stuff. That's really, I was heavily listening to that stuff. So
yeah,
to me, in my musical brain is like a combination of those two things. It's like the goth industrial thing and then the emo thing. You know,
I love that era. That's so awesome. Yeah, I just I think back fondly on those times of when I discovered that some of that stuff too, and it was just like, it'd be like moments in your car, you're just screaming your heart out to these songs, and you're like, now, you get older and you're like, man, I was young and dumb, but it was like, I can vividly remember moments of just connecting to a song or a band and
oh yeah, big time. I remember my first breakup. I was either 16 or 17, and I was like listening to Mineral, Power of Failing, the song song number 6, If I Could. Oh my gosh, I would like listen to that and like cry. Oh my gosh,
Mineral is so good, and their new stuff is ridiculous.
I was listening to that. I remember exactly what I was listening to. That and Stabbing Westward, Darkest Days.
Dude.
Those are the 2 albums I was listening to like crazy then.
Dude, Stabbing Westward. I saw them with Tripping Daisy in Jacksonville. Dude, it was incredible. Like, I remember I went with Craig Cheney from Evergreen Terrace, and we were just like, let's go. We both love Stabbing Westward, so we went and saw them, and it was awesome because like Tripping Daisy was playing, and they were like, does anyone like weed? And everyone's like, yeah. And they were like, give us weed. And then we're in Orange Park, of course, in this very conservative suburb of Jacksonville, and hundreds of bags of weed. And I remember being like, seeing the police at the door, and I was like, what are you going to do about this? What are you guys going to do about this? But that said, that show was insane. It was like it was incredible. I was probably 19, 20, something like that. And
Yeah.
that was such a formidable show for me. I'll never forget it. It was just one of those.
What's funny is like I mean I loved so much of that music in that era, and like it was so cool to, like, when you say Tripping Daisy, I like immediately think of a specific one of their songs. I can't remember what it's called, but it was on the CMJ sampler, because CMJ, I would find a lot
A
of bands.
girl, is it a girl? I got a girl, or
yeah, that's it.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And like I found so many bands through CMJ, like the CMJ samplers. They had those
Yep.
CD samplers.
I love those.
I still have all of my samplers from that. And I mean, I go back and it's like Shudder to Think, Killing Joke, Tripping Daisy, like so many amazing bands were on those. But it was cool then though, because there was such a mystery around those bands. Like I can't even picture what Tripping Daisy would look like. But now you would know what a band looks like. It'd be so easy.
Oh yeah.
You follow them on social media,
absolutely.
You'd see everything. But then it was like the mystery added something to
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and those CMJ magazines, it's like you'd pay $6 for it, but you got a sampler, and it was a dope magazine anyway, but it was just like you get a bonus. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was great. Those were so awesome.
That's cool, dude. So take me back to some 238 moments and some moments on Grace moments. Touring wise, how was that? I mean, I couldn't have been easy.
Well, I mean, I was 18 when 238 toured, when we wrote Regulate the Chemicals and then toured on it. So yeah, I was like a kid, I kind of didn't really know what I was doing, but I was super psyched. And I mean, they were, as a local in the Panhandle, they were my favorite band. So being able to join the band was like a dream come true at the time. And I mean, I still think Chris Staples is like, just such an interesting person to this day. Like when I talk to him, I still find him to be so intriguing. Like he's
incredible.
He's got such a unique perspective on life. And so it's always very interesting to talk to him. But it was awesome. It was a super exciting time. And I remember, just all the different pockets of friends that I made all around the country on that tour, I still keep in touch with. I mean, the Empsals from Arkansas, the Last Great Liar in Seattle. I mean, so many of my current friends I made on that tour. I got really close to the Further Seems Forever guys. All the Take Hold Records bands were super tight. So like, it was great to play shows with them all around. And we did half of the tour was with Stairwell. So like,
that's awesome.
Became really good buds with them. It was just a really neat time. Like we had like a point on the tour that we did get into like a fight, you know what I mean? Like you're young, you're on tour, you get in some difficult situations and things get tense, but it's so funny to look back at it now. It's like, as an adult, it would be no big deal. Like nothing that we encountered would be a big deal. But when you're that young and you're so emotional and passionate, it's like everything is so serious and, so life altering. So, it was like, I wish I would have stayed in the band a little bit longer, but I also, you can't change the past, and things still played out really cool after that. But it was awesome playing with 238. And then, all the Moments in Grace tours were fun too. I mean, God, we got to tour with so many bands that I love. Planes Mistaken for Stars.
That's awesome.
Hot Water Music, Avenged Sevenfold and My Chemical Romance, and Decahedron, Statistics. So many awesome bands. Engine Down. I could just list so many because we had so many awesome opportunities. And I mean, I'm such an old codger now because I realized the other day that was like 18 years ago. So when I talk about it, I can still talk about it like it was yesterday. But it's been a bit.
Were those shows big at all, or were they just small? Or
some of those were huge because the biggest show I think I ever played was probably with 238 at Cornerstone in 2000.
I think I was at that.
Were you?
Yes, I was. I went in 2000. Yeah, I went to Furnace Fest that year, and I went to Cornerstone that year. So I probably saw you both times.
Crazy.
Yeah,
that was a really good year. I mean, I remember Hope's Fall played. before us, I think,
Yeah.
and tore the house down,
Oh,
and there
absolutely.
was a crazy energy, and yeah, it was so much fun. Like that era of Take Hold Records was so
Oh, I know. Chad was he was ahead of the curve, man.
yeah.
That's awesome. I've actually never got to meet him. Hopefully I'll get to maybe at.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
I
I'm
know.
surprised.
I will. I'm sure at Furnace I will. I'm really looking forward to that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it should be a really cool opportunity to meet some cool people and catch up with some others too.
The
So,
Moments tours were pretty well attended, not because of us at all, but
yeah.
because we just were fortunate enough to get booked on some great tours. So I mean, like we did a sold out tour with Thrice all over the
Dude,
United
that's
States.
nuts.
It was Thrice and Poison the Well and Darkest
Whoa.
Hour,
What a
which was
show.
like, yeah, it was so great. I love them. I love Darkest Hour. Like,
Dude,
I just love seeing all three of those bands every night. They were great.
that's awesome. Do you keep up with any of the older bands? I know you said some of them, but like, Thrice or My Chemical or any of those or like any of the
I
bigger bands?
I did keep in touch with Thrice for a while, but I haven't talked to them in years. Trying to think. I still talk to Denver Daly from Statistics every once in a while. He's also plays in Desperacidos,
Oh, nice.
and he played with Harmar Superstar for a
Oh, I
while.
love Harmar rules.
Harmar's amazing.
I know.
And he had a really great solo record called Intramural, where he had Greg Dooley from the Afghan Wigs sing on a
Oh,
track.
nice. I have to check that out. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
That's
super.
cool.
It's hard to find. I don't think it's on any of the streaming services, but I recommend digging it up because it's worth it. Yeah, there is definitely people I keep in touch with from then, but not any of the My Chemical Romance guys. I liked them a lot though. They were nice dudes.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the older I get, I kind of like appreciate them more than at the time when they were coming out. And I was like, this band sucks. But now I'm like, kind of good.
I think
Like,
that they when we toured with them, they were going through a rough patch, I think personally, but they had just finished recording the Three Cheers album. So I just remember them kind of like having some struggles here and there, but being like, just like as dudes, we were like, these guys are amazing. Like we love them, they're super great guys to hang out with and shoot the shit with and be on the road with. And I just remember being in Portland and Mikey, the bass player, put the album on headphones for me to check out. And I was just like, man, like you guys are going to be huge because
that's
this
awesome.
record is amazing. I mean, it was like from the moment the track started, I was like, dang, like these guys are going to be massive. And
Yeah,
obviously that came true.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to, look back on, I think I got the Under Oath Chasing Safety like 6 months in advance. And I was like, band's going to be massive. Like, and I'm still thinking, well, they're a Christian band, so maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? But I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, what an incredible record. And, it's like those things that you hear, you're like, you think in your mind, this could happen. I mean, realistically could happen. But it's like, at that time, emo, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, was not really that big. And then all of a sudden, boom, just
Yeah.
change the trajectory of music in general, a lot of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. It was cool. Moments in Grace introduced me to a lot of the like, I probably would have fallen off on a lot of the emo stuff at that time had it not been for Moments in Grace, because like I don't know if I would have checked out Thrice or My Chemical Romance or Avenged Sevenfold. I mean, I know I wouldn't have, but
yeah,
like I gained such an appreciation for all three of those bands, seeing them every night. Like Avenged Sevenfold is one that I would never have listened to. I really don't think it would
yeah,
have been my taste. And I have so much respect for them. Like they
that's awesome.
work so hard at what they do, and
They deserve it.
they put so much into it. So it's like that's one of the fun parts about going on tour is like you can kind of like really gain an appreciation for something that you might not have.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Alexis on Fire is one band that like I didn't know anything about, and I kind of go back to them and think like, what a good band. And now they just put out a record that Tim, our drummer, sent me and said, you got to check this out. Like they're doing amazing stuff now, like in 2022. So
That's awesome. That's really cool. I'll have to check that out. I saw them at a festival one time, and I felt like I was a little older than their crowd, and I was just like, meh. But now I get it. I understand
they're fascinating though, because they are celebrities in Canada.
Yeah, that's what I
with
saw.
them in Canada. They were on the Hot Water Planes Mistaken for Stars tour, and most of that tour is US, and it was like mostly smaller shows, you know, and especially for them, like nobody knew who they were. And I mean, they might have like 5-10 fans in the crowd or something, but then we played in Canada with them, and it was like massive, you know, like 3,000 people all there for them, you know.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it was so cool. And they're like the best guys, and they left Tears for Fears too, so they were like,
that's awesome.
In my book.
Dope, dude. So I know after Moments you played with many bands throughout, you know, in Masse, and you just started Computer Club Records, all that stuff. What do you feel? Do you still play? And obviously you don't play with them now, but do you still maybe dabble in things? I know you got a new band.
Yeah, I've done a ton of bands since then. So, but just like pieces here and there. So like on Masse was with Steve from Further Seems Forever and Eric from City of Ships and my friend TJ. Then that turned into the Eastern Wave. Then I played with then I started Isia, which I'm still doing now. But it was kind of just a recording project. And I've also played with, I was in a band for about a year called Liquid Limbs out of Gainesville. I was playing baritone guitar with them. Really cool band. It's kind of like Big Business, like noise rock kind of stuff. Really, really cool band. I can say that because I wasn't an original member.
Yeah.
And then I played with Dredger, which was like is a hardcore band here in St. Augustine that is still playing. They don't play as much now, but I was playing drums for them, which is kind of funny because I'm not a drummer.
I'd like to see that.
I was just me trying to go as crazy as I could for 30 seconds at a time. So
hey,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
you're multi-instrumentalist.
I had to try them all, you know.
That's awesome. Sweet. Well, so you playing shows with your new project, and what all? I mean, you got a record coming out or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm working on a record. I don't have a title for it yet. It's hypnosis themed industrial, I guess you could say. It's
awesome.
The stuff, the project over the years has evolved several times, but kind of like the base concept behind it is that I'm just throwing everything at the wall, that every crazy idea I have, and
hey, why not?
You know, trying to push it as hard as I can in a weird direction.
Yeah,
so
that's cool though.
I kind of like combining the darkness with the weirdness, you know. And that's you know, I kind of wanted it to be a little grindy at first, but the newer stuff, it has some of that, but I just played a show with the Darling Fire in Orlando. It's my first show since the pandemic, and I've kind of got a whole new thing going with it, and they gave me some huge compliments. The bass player said that it sounds like Kraftwerk meets Big Black.
Oh, what a compliment.
Like, yeah, that I do think kind of like represents the vibe of what I think the next record is. So
that's awesome. Well, where can people find your music?
Yeah, so a Bandcamp, you know, isya.bandcamp.com. And then I'm also on Spotify and all the streaming services. I have the most recent thing I released was like a compilation album just of like my favorite songs that I've done over the years. And I called it Greatest Hits because it's totally just mostly super unlistenable music. So I love that. Very much inspired, you know, definitely like a lot of it was inspired by the Flying Lutenbachers and the Locust and Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum, and
that's awesome.
All you know, fast hardcore and stuff. So that's out there on all the streaming platforms. Awesome.
Very, very cool, man. Awesome. Well, I don't want this to end, but I don't have much more time. Maybe we can do a part 2 in the future.
Man. Anytime.
Dude, it's so good to talk to you. It's been a while, and hopefully I get to see you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Maybe Sunday.
Yeah. See you then. Let's hang.
Awesome. Cool, man. I'll talk to you soon, dude.
All right. See you.
Thanks, Jake.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining me on this first episode, and thanks so much to Jake. It was so awesome to catch up and talk shop. The Who's to Say podcast has a ton of guests lined up for the future. I'm really looking forward to the conversations and the hang time, so stay tuned. The links mentioned in the episode will be located in the show notes. With that said, who's to say?